Everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull. Amazing. Oh. That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is some...
In the volatile world of talk show politics, few moments packed the punch of Greg Gutfeld's savage takedown of The View, especially when it's aimed squarely at one of the show's most vocal co-hosts, Sunny Hostin. For months, Gutfeld, known for his unflinching commentary and cutting humor, had been a thorn in the side of The View's panel of women. But on one fateful night, he went beyond simply sparring with them. He delivered a verbal obliteration that reverberated across the internet and left the View team scrambling to salvage their dignity. What followed was nothing short of spectacle, an internet frenzy, and the beginning of a media firestorm that threatened to consume both Gutfeld's detractors and the embattled ABC network. Before we dive into that unforgettable moment, it's important to understand the context surrounding The View. For years, the daytime talk show had positioned itself as a powerful force in shaping American opinions, with a panel of outspoken women, each with a distinct political voice. The show became infamous for its heated debates, often touching on subjects like politics, race, and culture. While the show has seen moments of brilliance, it's also had its fair share of controversies. The show is no stranger to drama, often engaging in verbal brawls between its co-hosts, and at times, openly attacking conservative figures. But for all its conflicts, one thing was consistent.
All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy...
The View had a reputation for being able to shut down dissenting voices, especially conservative ones. However, that all changed when Greg Gutfeld, host of the popular late-night show Gutfeld, a program notorious for its biting wit and satire, decided he'd had enough of the panel's antics. It was a Wednesday night, and on The View's set, Sunny Hostin was delivering one of her signature monologues, waxing poetic about America's sins, systemic racism, and the usual suspect of privilege and identity politics. The conversation was veering into familiar territory, the idea that America is irredeemably flawed due to historical sins of slavery and colonialism. It was the kind of rhetoric that has made Hostin a lightning rod for controversy. Her firm stance on issues of race and privilege has always been a defining characteristic of her on-screen persona. But on that fateful day, something different happened.
View?
What?
Would be like Roseanne and like Candace right out of the gate.
Oh my...
That...
On The Five, Greg Gutfeld, known for his sharp tongue and quick wit, wasn't just reacting to Hostin's statements. He was about to unleash a brutal response that would leave the View panel reeling. Gutfeld, ever the provocateur, started by taking aim at Hostin's understanding of the solar eclipse, a topic she had just brought up on The View in her usual style of mixing identity politics with environmental hysteria. The conversation had somehow turned to climate change, with Hostin suggesting that the solar eclipse might somehow be connected to it. She was unaware of just how much trouble she was about to invite. Gutfeld, sensing an opportunity, didn't just call out her ignorance. He dismantled her credibility piece by piece. The true sign of the apocalypse, Gutfeld quipped with his trademark smirk, is someone that dumb has a law degree. Hostin, who had built her career on offering her often controversial opinions with authority, found herself blindsided by the comment. But Gutfeld didn't stop there. He continued, mocking her for not knowing the basic science behind the eclipse. There's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works, he added, referencing how the moon, not climate change, was responsible for the phenomenon.
Opposing perspective, right? Because the concern, I mean, it's there's no argument anymore on The View, right? I don't know.
The fatal blow came when Gutfeld decided to expose the hypocrisy in Hostin's identity-driven narrative. Hostin, known for her fervent support of reparations and her frequent attacks on supposed sins of America's founding, was about to be forced to confront something much more personal, her own ancestry. Gutfeld, ever the tactician, shifted the conversation with the precision of a seasoned commentator. He slyly reminded Hostin that, according to recent revelations, her own ancestors were slave owners. The room went silent. There was an audible gasp from the audience as the shockwave hit The View's set. Hostin, who had made an entire career out of holding others accountable for their historical actions, suddenly found herself confronted with the very same history she had so passionately condemned. The look of discomfort on her face was palpable as she tried to brush off the revelation. The silence was deafening. The unspoken irony. The View's loudest advocate for race-based guilt and reparations was now, in Gutfeld's view, part of the very system she so vehemently opposed. But instead of owning up to this hypocrisy, Hostin dismissed it with a half-hearted comment about it being just a fact of life, a remark that did little to calm the growing storm. Once the segment aired, social media exploded with reactions. It didn't take long for clips of the exchange to go viral, spreading like wildfire across Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. Memes, GIFs, and snarky comments flooded the internet. People were relishing in the sweet irony of it all. Hostin, who had spent years shaming others for their alleged privilege, was now being called out for the very privilege embedded in her own bloodline. One viral meme humorously suggested that Hostin's family tree might not just be tied to slave owners, but also to View's ongoing tone-deaf rhetoric. Others joked about her reparations stance, with one meme saying, "Reparations, right? Like, what are they doing? Just handing out checks now?" Hostin just cashed hers from the ancestors who owned slaves. But it wasn't just a moment of online mockery. The fallout was much more serious. The View's parent network, ABC, found itself caught in the crossfire of a scandal that threatened to upend the show's carefully curated public image. Executives scrambled to contain the damage. But it was too late. The story had already spread beyond the confines of the network's control. While The View was embroiled in damage control, Gutfeld was experiencing a surge in popularity. His late-night show, Gutfeld, saw a massive boost in viewership. Fans flocked to his program to relive the savage takedown of Hostin, while others tuned in to watch him deliver even more witty remarks and criticism of the View panel. The media landscape had shifted. For years, The View had been a juggernaut, its voices loud and proud in their liberal viewpoints. But in a matter of days, Gutfeld had flipped the script. He wasn't just winning the argument, he was winning the entire news cycle. In an era where every controversial moment has the potential to go viral, Gutfeld had perfected the art of media domination. As the controversy raged on, ABC executives were faced with difficult decisions. Advertisers were pulling away, concerned that their brands were being tainted by association with the increasingly controversial show. Legal battles loomed, with defamation lawsuits continuing to pile up. The network, which had once enjoyed the comfort of The View's substantial ratings, was now staring down the possibility of a PR disaster. Rumors began swirling that ABC was considering pulling the plug on the show. Would the network finally cut its losses and cancel The View, or would it attempt to salvage what was left by making drastic changes? The speculation reached a fever pitch. Insiders were leaking reports that ABC executives were furious at the amount of money The View was costing them in legal fees and lost sponsorships. Some advertisers had already begun to sever ties, concerned that the show had become too toxic for their brands. While the network scrambled to protect its reputation, the show's hosts were left in a state of embarrassment. Whoopi Goldberg, usually the voice of reason on the panel, tried to change the subject in a desperate attempt to defuse the tension, but the damage had already been done. Hostin was caught in the crossfire, and Whoopi, ever the seasoned media figure, realized she couldn't bail her out this time. There was also the matter of Whoopi's own history of controversial remarks, like her recent Holocaust comments, which had already put her under fire. This wasn't the first time The View had been involved in a public relations nightmare. The network had endured previous scandals and controversies, but this one felt different. Gutfeld's roast had exposed a deep hypocrisy, and now, the public was demanding answers. In the weeks that followed, ABC's decision-making process remained shrouded in uncertainty. Would they stick with the status quo, continue to back a show mired in controversy, or would they finally make the drastic decision to change course? With The View's audience shrinking and its credibility under attack, the show found itself at a crossroads. If ABC chose to cancel The View, what would replace it? Was it time for a fresh, more moderate voice in daytime television? One that didn't lean so heavily on partisanship and divisive rhetoric? Or would they attempt to revive the show by cutting down on the confrontations and rebranding The View as a more thoughtful and balanced program? As for Greg Gutfeld, his victory over The View was not just a personal triumph. It marked a shift in the media's landscape. He had gone toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful liberal talk shows on television and won, not just in terms of wit, but in terms of public opinion. His takedown of Sunny Hostin was more than just a roast. It was a masterclass in how to dismantle your opponent using their own hypocrisy against them. As the media continues to evolve, one thing is clear. The fight for the soul of American media is just beginning. And as long as Greg Gutfeld continues to wield his sharp tongue, The View may find itself struggling to keep up.